Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Monday, January 27th. Obviously, we've got Liam Cohen's presser later today, 3:30, being introduced as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Talked earlier this morning, not too long ago, about some potential coordinator, assistant coaches to keep an eye on. And somebody we did not mention, who has now been connected with the job via Tom Pelissero, is Daronte Jones for defensive coordinator. He's going to be interviewed by the Jaguars for their defensive coordinator job. He's currently the Vikings pass game coordinator on the defensive side of the ball and the defensive backs coach in Minnesota. Now, this is a guy that has worn a lot of hats in his coaching career. He's 46 years old, started his coaching career in high school. Spent a good amount of time in high school, but he has been around the block in college and the NFL, right? Started coaching in college back in 2005 as an assistant head coach and defensive coordinator. Grad assistant at UCLA, defensive backs coach, Montreal Alouettes, CFL, so he's been there as well. Hawaii secondary coach, Hawaii assistant head coach and secondary coach. Wisconsin DB coach, Miami Dolphins in 2016-2017, assistant defensive backs coach. Cincinnati Bengals 18 and 19, he was the cornerbacks coach. Minnesota Vikings defensive backs coach. Then in 2021 was the LSU Tigers defensive coordinator. Came back to Minnesota after that year as the defensive backs coach. And then this year, or 2023-2024, defensive pass game coordinator. So he's worn a lot of hats. Mostly it has been, secondary work for Daronte Jones. So somebody who has that DB coach, pass game coordinator background, that's interesting to me. We're going to talk about it. There's no direct connection that I have seen here between Liam Cohen and Daronte Jones in terms of coaching careers, but obviously somebody that Liam Cohen's interested here, and he's also been requested by the Bears for their defensive coordinator job. So somebody who's getting some interest from some new head coaches, and a guy that I could understand why the Jaguars and Bears for that matter, but specifically the Jaguars, would be interested in somebody with a focus on the secondary. Why do I say that? The Jack secondary has been horrendous. I think up front, you could certainly see some improvements in certain areas from the Jaguars' defensive front and linebackers, but the secondary was horrible, especially in 2024 and in the back half of 2023. You had all sorts of missed assignments, busted coverages. You just felt like you did not have something that was well coordinated. Again, backstretch of 2023 and into 2024. So obviously you need to improve personnel at safety. I think you need another outside corner opposite Tyson Campbell. But if you can find a coach that can get more out of those guys and, obviously bring in someone to work with the guys up front, but you've got a lot of talent up front. You've got guys that can produce. Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead playing on the interior, Mason Smith taking Foye Oluokun, Devin Lloyd. So I think the secondary needs more help, right? Obviously, as a defensive coordinator, he's going to be focused on the entire picture, but someone who could bring in that presence, that knowledge, that experience of really coaching up the secondary, I think could be valuable for this football team. Again, just with the struggles that they've had back there for a while. And again, it's not like he hasn't been a defensive coordinator. He hasn't done it in the NFL yet, but again, LSU was the defensive coordinator there. And going back to his high school days and even college, 2005 to 2009, he was the assistant head coach and defensive coordinator at Bowie State. Small school, but still. He's been working towards this in my mind. And I didn't know a lot about him, honestly, before it was announced by Tom or shared by Tom Pelissero that the Jaguars were going to be interviewing him. But I can see the path here. And the Vikings defense, you talk about what they've done under Brian Flores there. They've been a menace the last 2 years and not the most talented group defensively. Really from front to back, but Harrison Smith, obviously a very good player. There's been some decent players back. Stephon Gilmore, veteran type guys. Patrick Peterson was there as well a couple years ago. But this is a coach that has been a part of a defense that is one of the most difficult defenses for offenses to game plan for, bar none. When you look at the disguised looks that they bring to the table in Minnesota, and obviously I think if you're bringing in somebody from Minnesota, you're kind of expecting that to carry over from Brian Flores' defense to what Daronte Jones' defense would be. And it'll be interesting to see how this interview process goes. A lot of coaching history. He's been coaching for 20 years. Brings a lot of energy on the practice field based on what I've been able to glean from watching some mic'd up, both Senior Bowl and in Minnesota. Watched some interviews from him real quick, and a guy that's articulate, smart. I think that he feels like a quality candidate. Now, I personally would not probably put him at the top of my list for defensive coordinator. I think Patrick Graham should be at the top of the list if he's interested in the job, and he's going to need a job, right? This is a really good defensive coordinator. Doesn't need to spend a year not coaching football, in my mind, or being a assistant down the ladder. Like, this is a guy that deserves to be a defensive coordinator, and Patrick Graham, he's proven it in the NFL for a long time. So Patrick Graham would still be at the top of my list, but Daronte Jones, definitely an interesting name, somebody to keep an eye on as this process goes along. And I don't know how many folks the Jaguars are going to interview for the defensive coordinator job, but I would hope Patrick Graham is still among the top names there. They've obviously interviewed him twice for the head coaching job. I would really like to see him in Jacksonville as the defensive coordinator because he's a game plan defensive coordinator. He's done it for a long time in the NFL. And I think he's someone that Liam Cohen would really be able to lean on as a veteran coach. Obviously, Daronte Jones is not green as a defensive coach in the NFL, as a defensive coach at large. He's done this for a long time, but this would be his first NFL defensive coordinator job. I'm not saying that you can't find success in doing that, but I am saying with Liam Cohen being such a young dude, maybe having someone with the experience level of a Patrick Graham or someone like that, and it's not just the experience. Like, Patrick Graham has done a great job and not with always the best pieces, right? So that's still my top guy. We'll see how this continues to play out for the Jaguars. But again, according to Tom Pelissero, they are going to be interviewing Vikings pass game coordinator, defensive backs coach Daronte Jones for their defensive coordinator job. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear like the hat I'm wearing right now. You can become a channel member here on YouTube. Y'all have a good one.